Hi friends, welcome to my channel Ask2Shamik. In this video, I will discuss about the 5 points so you can think about that your organization is ready for adopting the microservices or you should opt for the monolith. So that's why my video's tagline is think twice before adopting microservices. So currently, microservices is a buzzword we all know, and everyone is wants to adopt that microservices, but without thinking. So when your organization is trying to adopt microservices, the first thing as an architect, you need to know that how your organization works and what are the things in your organization. Is your organization is prepared for adapting microservices or not? Because if your organization is not prepared for adapting the microservices and you adopt these microservices, there is in hell of an experience and you cannot survive with that microservice framework. So you need to revert to monolith again. So that's why as an architect you need to maintain a checklist, and based on that checklist, if you feel confident, then you should go for microservices, otherwise not. In this video I will give you the 5 checklist. So these 5 checklist, always check, compare this checklist with your organizations, and if you found that these checklists are as in green, then opt for microservices. So 5 aspects of this microservice checkpoints are project associate strength, microservice and its associate knowledge, organization infrastructure like agile, DevOps, all those things, and then the domain criticality of an project, and then absolutely but not the least, the budget of an project. So I will discuss these 5 aspects very detailedly so you can understand why these 5 aspects are important and why I want to discuss this in my video. So the first thing is the project associate strength. This means that when you are starting to building a project, every organization is assigned some developers and some QA to that project. So you need to know for your organization that how many developers and how many QA is assigned to your current projects. Because if you want to add up the microservices, first you need to know that microservice means a build of small individual services, and each services has its own team and each services has its own life cycle. So one service is focused by one team, and that team should be cross skill teams, means they are all UI developers, all database developers, all middleware developers are clubbed together. So once a microservice is built, that service should be supported by that particular team. That means a service means a dedicated team. So that's why you need to know what is your project associate strength, because if you assign to a 10 or 11 developers in a project, and if your microservice means your microservice count is 10 or 12, so it means that one developers for each services and it is squared, right? So for microservice architecture, your project association strength should be high, because each team should be small, maybe a 5 6 members, but yes, as there is a suite of services, the number of microservices you have, that multiplied by 5 should be your project strength. So check strength of that project. If that is the less than that, so I should say that think carefully. So if it is a small microservice, maybe practical scenario, one team can handle 2 3 microservices. But again, this is not the principles of microservices. The microservices means there is one team and one team is dedicated for one microservices. But in practical scenario, we may, due to the project or lack of resources, we may have to do that. But as a beginning, you should think about that, keep an eye with that project association. If it is too low, then I should say you should opt for monolith, not going to a microservices. Second one is the microservice and its associate knowledge. What I mean to say is that, like that, when you are adopting microservices, the culture, the microservices thing is all based on a new gen architecture or new gen culture. Okay, means when you are adapting the microservices, it's not only that the microservices components are new, like that discovery, like that Eureka, like that Zool API, not like that. Those are new, but apart from that, its infrastructure is also new when you are adopting the microservices, because it is a suite of services. Each team has its own services, so it's need a frequent deployment and frequent integrations in a lower environment, because to check that as a whole the microservice communicated each service, because each service needs to communicate with another service. So until you not do the unit testing in a lower environment in a frequently basis, you cannot say how your microservice worked as a whole. So it's need your stable environment, and you need a frequent build. For the frequent build, you need to develop a DevOps culture, a automated build pipeline. Otherwise, there, if your organization adopting the manual build, means create an INC, then one person do that artifacts, deploy that it's not very aligned to microservices, because one man cannot do deploy all the services artifacts and deploy it infrequently. There should be a problem, so it should be automated. Another thing is microservices for the horizontal scaling, means it needs many services should be run as a together. Means for a one instance, suppose you have an one account registration service, so it means that there should be in lower environment 10 or 12 instances of account registration should be run in a parallel. That's why that every service is up and running, because if in your lower environment only one instance of use each services, if that instance goes wrong, something wrong, it's kind of a single point of failure. And microservices reverses that. Microservice technology is for the horizontal scaling. It's mean that for a one service you have multiple instances, so the for a particular service would never fail, because if one instances is failed, there is a backup another instances which will take care for that instances, that will cover that instance. So if there is only one or two instances in your lower environment, you cannot work in that things, because you are doing the inter-processing communication. And when you are doing inter-processing communications, if one service is down or your network reliability is down, it is a hell of an experience, and you cannot do testing over your lower environment. That's why be clear about what is your organization architecture and what they adopting. As they adopting the DevOps, as they adopting the containerization things, because in containerization you can spin your containers in lower environment. So is that knowledge has in your associates, means your associate has that knowledge. If that knowledge does not have any associate, because each microservice has its own team, and if that team is lacking of those knowledge, if they not know about the DevOps, if they not know about the containerization, if they not about that automated build, they not know about the Jenkins, then there is a big gap and you cannot proceed. At least in for each team there should be one or two persons who knows all the associates knowledge, then they can educate their team to cope with the new microservice architecture. That's why it is important to check that how your projects associates knowledge in microservice area and its associates area, like the Docker cloud, the containerization things and the DevOps things. So keep that things in your checklist. The third one is that organization infrastructure. In my previous slide, I already talked that it is very important to maintain your lower environment, your upper environment in means in stable, because microservice means a suite of services, and each suite of services has its own build and deployment pipelines. So if your organization is not following that, then this is an hell of a situation. You cannot do anything. You should go for monolith then, because if your infrastructure is not stable enough, it not automated, then you should not adopt microservices, because microservice, the first and foremost criteria is your infrastructure, how your infrastructure is. And another thing is that microservice also welcomes agile methodology, because each team as a cross experts team and each team owns a journey, because there is no handover. You build it, you run it in a microservice world, because whatever you build, you should have to run it all the way, because you are the only person to responsible for that particular service. So it means a particular cross expertise team will work for a service. That's why if your organization has an means layered expertise pool, and often when you get a project, they just cherry picking some resources from each pool, like UI pool, middleware pool, developers pool, and make a team, and they work as a team. And then once handover, then that team is dissolved, again there is a new projects come, they are again cherry picking those resources and form a new team. That would not work in microservice culture. So if your organization has to adopt microservice, the first thing they have to do, they have to change their vision. They have to change how organization structure of their expertise, how they structure their expertise pools. So it should be around a team specific pool, rather than there is an UI experts pool, there is a middleware experts pool, there is a develop experiments pool. And another thing is, you need to know that how your production servers are. If your production servers are maintained by your organization, and if there is two servers, or means two physical servers are there, and you means off and on you do the blue green deployments, then there is no way to add up microservices, because there is few physical servers, and all the different microservice artifacts will be deployed in that particular servers. It means that microservice, all the microservice share the physical server resources. Then it is physically change your coding, but logically they will deploy it in the same JVM or same memory space. So it will not going to work. If microservice means each service, each instance should be deployed in a separate machine. That's why the container things comes up. That's why the cloud architecture comes as where means you opt for that platform as a service. You spin the servers on the fly, and deploy one instance to it. Means when there is a requirement, you can easily spin up more servers to it, and if there is no requirement, you can delete those instances from your cloud server pool. That's why if you have a physical server, and you just deploy 5 6 microservices as a whole in that particular service, and that means that those microservices share that physical server space, and it is not going to work in that way, because this is totally against of the microservice principles. That's why the organization infrastructure is very important for a microservice project. So think about it, that your organization adopting that container, or your organization is enough flexible for horizontal scaling or not. Now, the fourth point is the domain criticality of your project. So, you know that all projects belong to a particular domain. Either it is an VFS domain, either it is an healthcare domain, either it is an media entertainment domain. So, whatever the domain it is, you need to understand that how critical that domain is. Is that domain is ever changing? Means whatever the rules that is going to change forever. How that each domain subdomains are, how important those things, because if your domain is very critical, is has so many subdomains, so you need to create a context map out of it. You need to create a bounded context amongst it, and it is changing forever, because you need to change the law, because the laws are frequently changing. Then think of an microservice architecture. If that model, that domain is pretty simple, and there is no change, this is kind of a constant domain, there is no changing on a law, and there is a frequent communications are there in this domain, and not so much subdomain in it, so no so much context map in it. In that case, I think you should adopt the monolith architecture. But yes, you adopt the monolith architecture is an SOS, that service oriented from each then architecture, your each module should be an kind of an service. So if in future you have to go through a microservice architecture, you can easily separate those services from a monolith workspace, and you can create A proper microservice architecture means currently make a monolith in such a way that a ER is consist of and different feature specific words, and then that each features these everywhere consist of and features means a business capabilities. Then when you want to move it to microservices, you just extract the words from your ER and then deploy, do it the microservice enable things and deployed in the separate servers. It is the best way to extract the codes from a monolith and create the microservice architecture. Now, the last one, which is not least, is the budget of an projects. Either your project is an fixed budget projects, either it is an means ongoing projects, and company puts some budget to it every year. So if this is a fixed budget project, this means it's kind of a fixed timeline, and microservice adaptation takes time because it is a new kind of things. It needs the help of your infrastructure. It's welcome DevOps architecture. It's welcome agile methodology. It's itself has a new component. So your team should be educated enough to work in a microservice arena. Otherwise, that's why first adopting a microservice in an organization takes time, but once it's established in your organization, then it is means adapting a new features or business capabilities is very easy, but initial cost is very high because you need to change all of those things. You have to shift from your manual to totally automated things. That's why think about the cost of this project. If the budget is too high, is the if your microservice change budget is too high and your what's the budget assigned to your projects is low compared than that, then I should say stick in monolith, also making the service oriented architecture that if there is a future budgets comes in your project, then you should break your monolith to microservices and take up from there. So this is the main thing, the budget of a project. Think about these 5 checklists before you move into the microservices. Otherwise, if you're not confident about these 5, don't go for microservice. This is my practical experience. So keep this checklist very handy. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, then subscribe to Ask2Shamik. Also, I have an blog called javaonfly.blogspot.com. Go there. There is a lot of microservices articles are there, and if you like it, subscribe also in there. And I have a Facebook page and group Ask2Shamik. Join them so you can personally touch with me, so you can raise any question to that group. I will answer for you. Okay, thanks for watching. I will come with another new video in next week. Thanks, bye.